May 18, 2026. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It was quite choppy. There was no real economic data to move the market. Looked like it was just a carryover from Friday. Sold off. Looks like it was two big legs up, maybe three. Just go 1, 2, 3. I mean, you could maybe argue for a fourth. Then there was a sell-off, a rally, another sell-off. It just got kind of choppy. And it looked like it was one leg down, maybe a second leg, or to be honest, it just looks like a lot of choppy legs down, a lot of choppy price action, and overall the market just kind of stayed in a sideways chop. I did manage to take one trade today, which is right here, and it was profitable. And I identified a few other trades, but other than that, some of the chop didn't really result into too many nice setups in my opinion. The volume was actually pretty good, pretty high. So I get into the setups right now. So in the pre-market, it looks like it sold off, went sideways. I mean, you could argue that maybe there's a few legs up, but it looks like just maybe one big move up. Sell off, maybe two legs up. Hits the pre-market high, and it starts moving down what looks like it's a kind of an orderly orange down channel. Nope, didn't mean to do that. Roll this back. There we go. Starts moving down this orderly down channel. Looks like it was consolidating here, then it broke through and kept going. Then it enters this trading range. So initially I thought maybe prices were in this orange down channel pretty nicely. There's an overshoot here, and I debated whether this was actually no overshoot or actually an overshoot. So I kept it as an overshoot. It started moving sideways. I saw a lower high here, but it was an almost trade. The only reason I liked it or thought about it or gave it any consideration is the localized low and the swing low. First entry short pullback, second entry short, and you get a lower high here. Rejection off the EMA. It looks like it's coming from the top of the range. But the reason it's an almost trade is it feels congested. If you look at the candles previous to it, they're pretty much the same size bodies. So this is just chopping around, opening and closing, and kind of following through and just kind of creating a little bit of a difficult, confusing area. The only other thing was that maybe there's enough room to get a quick scalp here, but you don't know in real time if it's just going to continue dropping like this. So left it alone. It does break out of this downward orange down channel, but it moves sideways. There's an overshoot here, kind of creates an overshoot here, but there's no real trade here. There's a localized high. It's a first entry long pullback. There's a second entry long here, but I really wanted this to close above the EMA to kind of trust that it's going to create a second leg up. And since it didn't, I was looking for a higher low inside this range, but the higher low shows up here and it gives you a doji. Also, it kind of closes right in this area that could be a resistance. So it's a little ambiguous. I had to leave it alone. Starts moving up. I find this potential trend line and I turn it into a channel when it kind of prices kind of moved up to here. It's a localized high. It looks like it's moving down this green down channel, break, test the low, and as it kept going, I drew and established, especially when it got to here, this channel here, but I never colored it in because it just doesn't fit the nicest. So it's just kind of an area that I just decided to leave alone. Swing low here, creates a first entry short, break out of this green up channel, test the high. So it's a first entry short, second entry short, but just this no setup here. I mean, even the signal bars don't look that good. Pushes to the high, pushes first entry long and flushes down. I just marked this with an arrow. There's no real reason other than, I mean, this is technically a lower high, but I had a hunch about this, but the hunch wasn't justified by anything other than a hunch. I mean, I could look at anything throughout the day and think that something's going to happen and it might play out, but it doesn't mean, there was any kind of super trade there. But this isn't for myself. I just wrote in my notes, like, I thought this was going to keep moving down because I like that it engulfed the three previous candles, not three, well, three previous candles with a strong push down to close at the low. EMA doesn't really matter right now because it's kind of flat. You can't really rely on it to act as a resistance. This high and this low they didn't exist yet. I drew it later when prices kind of formed later, but it was just something I noticed just kind of for myself. So if I ever watch this video again, then I'll kind of know why I had this. So it hits a localized low, pushes up, pushes back down, pushes up. This is when I thought there's a triple test here. So I'm thinking there's 2 legs up. It looks like it's starting to reverse. It does reverse. You get a triple test at the bottom, confirmed here. So now I'm thinking I'm in a pretty, for the most part, defined range. It's like a push up. It's a first entry long pullback. Technically, it creates a second entry long here and then a failure on the second entry long. Also, it's a localized low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. So I thought this is a possible trade. It was aggressive because, to be honest, I thought it was going to move down, but I didn't want to take a trade on a moving down because there is enough room for a scalp. And the things going forward is this break of this orange down channel needs to test the low. This could be the first attempt. This could be the second attempt. You have two key entry points. But since this is such a, in my opinion, when I saw this, kind of a pretty well-defined range, my expectation was prices are probably going to move up to the high. But I was conflicted on the idea that this is kind of a nice setup with two key entry points. Strong engulfing bar close to low. Looks like it wants to move down. There's enough room for a scalp, but it if it was kind of coming from the high and it didn't already touch this already and gave you this setup, like maybe this closed here and it gave you 1, 2, then there's still enough room to touch the low. I think I would have jumped on it, but I thought it was a possible trade, just a little more aggressive than I'd like. And it does give you a lower high confirmation here, but it's an almost trade because it's just a doji. And for here, it has successfully touched the bottom now. So is it going to reverse back up? Looks like a break. That's the bottom. I mean, technically it didn't make a new low. So with this support in place, I'm thinking if I took a short here, there's a really high chance or a chance it's going to reject here and push back up. So I didn't think this is a high probability setup, this lower high. Pushes down, starts moving down this orange down channel, reverses. Technically you have a second entry short here, but it's not a good signal bar. So it just looks like a break, push down, test the high. So it's almost like two legs up. Pushes down this orange down channel break, tests the low, kind of consolidates here. I thought not necessarily we're in a range, but we're in some kind of area of support that's being respected. Pushes back up to the high. Here gives you a triple test. So I'm thinking, okay, there's kind of a range here, similar to this. And it was kind of localized low. First entry short pullback, second entry short triple test. It's not the best signal bar, so I want to leave it alone. Now this over here was slightly better because it had a nice red signal bar and engulfed the previous candle. This one is green, but I was thinking maybe prices are going to go down, but this doesn't look as well defined as this one at the time. So, you know, the triple test is here, but this just felt a little bit tighter, a little bit more defined. But the thing going for this one is I'm at the high of the range, whereas this one, I was kind of in the middle of the range, so it's a little hard to tell. Called an almost trade. You'd have to sit through this noise. Now, depending on what I was going for, if I was going for my 6 ticks, I would have gotten it. But if I was going for more, this candle might have stopped me out. And I didn't expect that the EMA would act as some kind of support. Prices continue moving down, hits the low side of the range, breaks through. I'm expecting a potential fail breakout. Prices moving back into this range, but it doesn't. It kind of falls into its own range here and then continues downwards. So now I don't think this blue range is in play, and I certainly don't think this purple range is really in play. Even though the fail breakout comes back in, pops around, it sets up for my one and only trade. So right now, prices, it just looks like it's sideways. Granted, it started from the hot lows, pushed to the highs, kind of pushes. Looks like if this is a big range, it's on the high side, and maybe it's moved back to the low side. So I saw this as a swing low. It's a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. The second entry short I actually thought was a possible trade because I do have this darker red down channel. So I usually draw a bunch of trend lines before I turn them into channels, and I draw support lines before I turn them into actual ranges, support and resistance. And I noticed that there was some kind of respect being paid to this line here because these 3, 4 candles kind of respect this move down. Now, this is kind of where the channel I ended up drawing here, but I never colored it in because this doesn't look well defined. But at least I know if I'm looking for a short, this could be a key entry point. So it's a new low, first entry short pullback, second entry short. This, and now I wasn't too concerned that this is going to act as a support now because it already broke through. I mean, even before then, it was breaking through. So when I see this in real time, I'm thinking there's a pretty good chance it could still push down and out. And it closed near the low. So I thought this was a possible trade. I didn't like it though, because I just wanted a lower high. And then it does give you the lower high. This is where I take my trade, because it confirms the second entry short. Technically, you have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long failure. So lower high I liked. And it closed here. I wanted to make sure I get a clean successive break. So first it pushes down. I'm kind of waiting. It was a little bit late on the entry. I waited for this one to close, and when it closed, toward the very end, I thought it was going to close low. It rallied back up about one tick, and I thought this is a decent enough setup. I think there's enough momentum to push down for 6 ticks. I entered, got my stop order ready, moved it up. It opens, flushes down, and my order got filled relatively quick. So I was pretty happy I didn't have to sit through any kind of noise. Flushes down and gets the fill. I'll admit this is a little more aggressive. This isn't the best setup. I think the second entry short was probably a better one. The lower high would have been even better if it closed at the low, and I didn't wait till this one closed. But I just wanted a little bit more confirmation. Pushes down, starts, so still respecting this trend line. And I never colored this channel in yet because the low side doesn't confirm very well, but at least the high side looks like it's pretty decent resistance. But it also looks like it's hitting this support area. So now it breaks out, pops around, and continues downward. But now there's no real setup here, in my opinion. Pushes to the low side. Looks like it's break, almost like 2 legs up. Hits this high side. I established this as a potential resistance, but it didn't really turn into a range till much later, so ignore this blue range at the moment. I just had this as a potential support and resistance area. This is a potential resistance area. Localized high, so first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long, not the best signal bar. I had a line drawn here, and it eventually turned into this blue range. But with this breakout here, I didn't really trust it. I didn't like the signal bar. If it turned with a more bullish close to the high, then I would have thought 2 clean legs down, potential move back up. Pushes back down, another fail breakout. And I was playing with the idea that maybe the range is actually slightly lower. The problem with drawing it this low so late is now I'm kind of neglecting the support bounces here. So I kind of decided that this is probably where the bottom of the range was, and this is a fail breakout. Another potential fail breakout. It starts reversing up. I had this drawn a little tighter initially. So there's no breakout, and it was kind of pushing up. There is these little excursions out, but they didn't result in any clean setup that I particularly like. There's a failed breakout here, and then it pushes down. So it's a localized high. It's a first entry long pullback. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but as you can see, this one just moved up by one tick and flushes down. Plus the second entry long, this inside bar, outside the range, it just looks like it's one big leg down. So taking a long here after seeing this feels really risky. And if you did, or if I did, I likely would have just gotten punished by this. So prices move down, hits kind of localized bottom. Looks like it's 2 legs up. So localized low, first entry short, pullback. Second entry short, break of the green channel, up channel has tested the high. I saw the second entry short. I wanted confirmation lower high below the EMA, and you never get that. So it kind of pushes back down. So there's no setup here for me. Pushes up on the second leg. It's a localized high, and that comes back down. So it looks like it's 2 legs up, pull back, pushes up, and then it looks like it's moving in a sideways range now. So this range looks like it's developing pretty nicely. There is some kind of resistance prices are having trouble breaking through. Looks like it's 2 legs down. I saw this as a localized high. It actually sets up for a possible trade. I saw this localized high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. I didn't mark it. I should have. There's a triple test here almost because it looks like it was pushing down to 3. Triple test, moving back from the bottom of the range. First entry long, second entry long, localized low. First entry short, second entry short. This second entry long fails on this candle. And I think, and multiple tests up here, this is the candle after this one closes to enter. It would have been entered one tick below, and it would have worked for 6 tick scalp. Then prices continue moving. It looked like it was 2 legs up here, fail breakout, 1 leg up, pull back, second leg up. I also drew the measured move. First entry short, second entry short, lower high. The thing that got me worried was this lower high could be moving into this support. There's a fail breakout here, so I was anticipating potentially a fail breakout on this side. But what was throwing a little bit of confusion for me is this leg up pullback made a measured leg from here up already. So this could have been played out. So this lower high could be on its way back down. But with that ambiguity of maybe there's going to be a fail breakout on the high side, I had to leave it alone. Push this down. I was hoping for a lower high or first entry long, second entry long failure right around this area, but it never shows up. Pushes down, looks like this big orange down channel move. Break, looks like it's 2 legs down. So technically a new high, first entry long, second entry long, below the EMA. I'm not the biggest fan of this. I was looking for a higher low above the EMA to maybe consider a trade, but it never shows up. Flushes down, moves sideways. Sideways, technically have a new low, first entry short, second entry short engulfing. Saw this, but I didn't like that it was shorting right into this support area of this clean measured leg. So it would have coincided right here. And this just feels very risky. As a failed breakout here, reverses back up. Now this happened in a matter, you can tell from the timestamp, this is 12:01 Pacific Standard to 12:02 Pacific Standard. I'm not really sure what news came out, but it pushed this big rally up. These 10 candles formed in about 2 minutes. So this is just crazy. I wasn't sure what I was looking at, but it did make me buckle down and just be a little more cautious. Break of this green up channel, test the high, and it starts moving down. Localized high, it's a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but it looks like it's more like a visual first entry, pull back, second entry, and even then, there's no nice signal bars. And it pushes up, break of the green up channel, test the high, and it starts flushing down. There might have been some kind of trend line resistance here, but it doesn't fit nicely. Plus, it's creeping on to the last 30 minutes of the day that I get very anxious and cautious about, especially if I already got one trade and I was green for the day, because I don't want to take a loss here with no more time left, especially if I was already green on the day, knowing that I just thought, okay, well, let's not press our luck. The trade that I took wasn't the best. It was a little bit of a chase. So just kind of ride it through and just see what happens just for educational purposes. Looks like it was a visual first entry short, second entry short, kind of lower high here, but it's not the greatest signal bar. Don't like that. Pushes down, hits a localized low. It reverses up on this green up channel break, tests the high. And unfortunately, this kind of creeps into the last 15 minutes where I definitely am not going to take a trade, but it was just kind of this choppy, a little bit of a choppy mess. And especially when it's right here, when you think there's a visual first entry, second entry. I mean, this is just the last 10 minutes where I don't want to even attempt to try to take anything there where things get really a little bit wild and whippy. So kind of how I saw charts today was a bit messy. Volume was good. There was a lot of second entries, but they didn't necessarily translate to actual setups. They'd just be second entries, not clean legs and everything, or the signal bar just wasn't the best. This one was a bit of a chase. It was a really great trade here. The second entry short failed, second entry long, multiple test here. Unfortunately, I didn't take it though. So I think that probably would have been the trade of the day. But it was late in the day. And to be honest, right after about 10 a.m. Pacific Standard, I know my mental capital is pretty depleted. So I had to be extra picky and extra careful taking any trades then because I'm usually more focused and carefully watching here. That when I get to here, I tend to fall victim to kind of like hallucinations where I think I see something or I invent something. So I just have to be extra careful. But unfortunately, this one was actually a really good setup in my opinion. This one right here, at least for the 6 tick scalp. So hopefully that was helpful.